Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Gameweek 17 live stream. We're back again after so long. It's hopefully going to be a good stream with you guys. I'm looking forward to doing some live tinkering, answering some questions, and yeah, I've done a lot of tinkering myself, to be honest, over Christmas. A bit too much, really, all things considered. But I think I'm landed on a pretty solid team, and we'll be going through some of that today as well. So yeah, I don't think we need to be messing about, really. We can just get it up on screen. We can talk it through. Good morning, Armin. How you doing, bud? Had a fantastic Christmas, mate. Thank you very much. And yes, me too, mate. Not just FPL, but just the Premier League in general. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. I can't wait for football to return. I also had fun watching the World Cup, and welcome back to the stream, Tanoki. Good to see you, my friend. It was a great World Cup, to be honest. I can't lie. I'm very glad I didn't do World Cup fantasy, though. That's definitely something that, from the looks on Twitter and just in general the community, they were really struggling with a lot of things with the game. So I'm glad I didn't do that, and I was able to just relax with the newborn son, chill out, and yeah, just enjoy my paternity leave with the family. But on screen is pretty much where I've landed, guys, in terms of my team. Now, I haven't confirmed anything. There's nothing locked in yet, but I'll be talking through why I've gone with certain selections shortly, just on a different website. But yeah, I think I'm really going to be quite bullish now on triple City attack. I was really struggling to find ways to go without Cancelo at first, but the more and more I look at it, the more and more I feel like it just locks me into a bit of a problem. I had Salah originally, and I feel like I'm leaning much more towards KDB now because of the doubles. There's just a plethora of reasons, really, that I could go through on why I'm going with no Cancelo, I think. But yeah, it's I was really bullish on the 3-4-3, but I think now I might even go with the 3-5-2, as you can see on screen. Couple of differentials in there, $1 million in the bank to play around with as well, which is always handy. But I think this is me. How you doing, Zem? How you doing, bud? Nice, Tanoki. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, shouldn't really be tinkering too much over Christmas, right? Like, I just feel like it's maybe the wrong time to be using the mobile phone, right? When you're supposed to be with family and enjoying the thing. So it's probably the better reason that you've done it. But yeah, I just kind of, I don't know. I feel like because I was doing the stream today, I just felt like I needed to have just a little bit of a play around. So late last night, I was still up, having a little bit of a play around with things. But yeah, I'm glad that I have done, because I don't think I would have landed on this draft, to be honest, if I would have done it first thing this morning. So it's personal preference, obviously, on how much you've spent doing it, but this is where we're at, I think. So any headaches for you guys? Any headaches? Any massive concerns for you? Are you sort of trying to stretch the budget all the way through? There's certain picks that you're still not sure of. Where are we at, guys? Yeah, I really like Estepinian. I think, I've got in this squad maybe a little bit of kind of a couple of risky picks here, right? Foden, definitely in terms of a minute's risk, I'm always going to say and can be concerned about him. We've also got Mount is definitely a bit of a punt here, just because he hasn't returned very consistently at all, but I really like the look of Chelsea's first two fixtures and the double as well. He's a possible captain shout depending on his performances in the first 2 weeks, and I can always have a look at Nunez down to Mitrovic for 19 if I want to captain a Fulham player instead. So there's a couple of options that I've got in terms of that, but Estepinian 100% in terms of Brighton and their possible doubles, maybe even the triple. I think him and Trossard could do some really, really good things. Yeah, triple. I think with freemium, the thing is with me is I've kind of, my personal view on it is I've had a little bit of a tinker around with those types of drafts, even a formium, but I just feel like you sacrifice so many different places in your squad. It depends really on your team value. Mine personally was pretty average. I was about just under 102. But obviously, as you know, there's some people in the community, I think like Raptor and other individuals who've got nearly 104. It's like literally another 2 million almost to spend on their squad. So I feel like the formium out of the question for me. Threemium, I feel like is too much of a stretch for my team personally. But if you can fit them in and you can find those little extra 0.1s or 2s, I do still think that Kane is a possibility. My only concern with fitting Kane in would just be his yellow card scenario. And he's got an early kickoff against Brentford today. So he might not even do anything against what's pretty good fixture you'd expect for him. And also you've got the World Cup situation. You don't know mentally what it's going to have done to him. That penalty miss was abysmal. I'm not saying that I'm not going to throw him under the bus as a player, because I think he's done phenomenally for England and for Spurs. But I just think from a psychological point of view that might impact him a bit. How you doing, Seb? Good morning, mate. Hope you had a good Christmas, bud. You have 103, yeah. So just a little bit more than me, I suppose. But yeah, I just think that with a freemium, you're going to have... I think you have to have someone like Almiron. You potentially have to go with someone like Andreas. Because I think if you're going to go with Kane, you're more than likely going to want Haaland, Kane and Darwin, to be honest. That's just my personal view. Maybe not. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you go Haaland, Kane and De Bruyne, of course, as your freemium, and then you have to downgrade someone. Yes, Seb. So I was talking at the beginning of the stream, mate. I feel like I was planning routes to Foden the whole time. It's such an annoying position, because he's really stung me earlier on in the season. The same for Mason Mount. Like, I'm putting players in that have already stung me, to be honest, a little bit, and haven't necessarily shown a good run of form or expected minutes. But the thing is with Foden is that the potential against a fixture like Leeds could be absolutely amazing. And if I'm going to be putting him in onto game week 20 anyway, which is only a couple of game weeks away, for that City double or potential double, then why not start with him? I just think it makes sense. Is Mitrovic a more viable option this week? Well, I think, to be honest, with Mitro, he's obviously been he's yellow flagged as a concern. I'm not 100% sure if he even starts the game. And what I would like to do with Mitro is kind of sit on these next few weeks to wait and see with him, because if he doesn't get that yellow card and we go into game week 19 with him on that double, then potentially I go as far as getting rid of Darwin and putting Mitro in. So I don't necessarily see him as essential for this game week 17. I think we can probably wait a couple of weeks and assess it from there. The thing is, the injuries to Noki, that's the thing. So that's why I'm happy with going to for the first couple of weeks, putting Nunez in, because we know that Firmino's injured. He was out for the League Cup game. We know that Jota's injured. We know that Diaz is injured. I just think it's a no-brainer to put him in, at least for the next few weeks. Darwin and Almiron, got Almiron at 5 million, or Foden and Nketiah. I mean, that's Foden and Nketiah or Darwin and Almiron. I mean, is there any other combinations that you can do with Foden and somebody else? Can you put Martial in for that extra 0.2 maybe? I don't think Foden's better than KDB because I've still got KDB in my team. I personally feel like KDB as a premium asset, he's obviously 4 million more, right, than Foden. So I feel like he is overall a better asset, and he's got more nailed minutes. Pep's already said he's probably one of the greatest players of all time. So I think he's not really going to miss any minutes, whereas I feel like Foden is more of a risk. But the problem I've got is that Cancelo is maybe equally as a risk in terms of rotation because of the fixture congestion. I mean, Haaland could even sit out because of what happened with Alvarez. He had a phenomenal World Cup. I don't think we will see that, but my point is that Foden and Cancelo, I think, are equally as let's say, risky in terms of possible rotation. And I see that Foden's attacking output far outweighs Cancelo's. Cancelo's not been performing. He's on 70 points. And when you look at how much money you're spending for it, I mean, it's on my screen now to the right. You can see Trippier's at 5.9 and Castagna down to 4.7. Cancelo at 70 points is the only person that's, above 6 million that's in that price point. So I can't justify his price anymore. Shubham, welcome to the stream, mate. Good to see you, bud. Wilson, Martial and Almiron or Trossard. I think if you're going to go with Wilson, then you go with Trossard. If you go with Martial, then you go with Almiron. I don't particularly like the Newcastle double up because their fixtures aren't amazing. I think covering one of them is okay. I had Wilson as a 3-4-3 for a long time, but it just meant that I couldn't fit someone like Foden in. And I feel like I was being completely blinded by Andreas. The whole time I was thinking, well, I need to be playing Andreas for the double game week. I need to put him in there. But actually, in a couple of weeks' time, I can just transfer Mitro in and I can cover the Fulham asset if I want it. I think Shaw is the risk that I've got with him. So this is another point, right? The draft in front of you is full of possibilities in terms of from a negative point of view. Shaw, 4.8 million, potentially rotates with Malacia over these next 3 fixtures, which I don't like. The good thing is that Malacia has been used at right back before, and Luke Shaw can kind of play there. I would prefer him to play left back though, but because Dalot is injured in this game, I think Shaw gets guaranteed minutes against Forest. He's one that I can evaluate. So if you notice, I haven't got an Arsenal defender in here. So absolutely, after the first 3 weeks, when we start playing City and Arsenal and the trickier fixtures, then I can easily move him to someone like a Ben White. And that to me is okay. I'm okay with starting him for the next 3. Injuries means he's more now, but in my opinion, it can actually mean the team and hence Darwin performs worse. Yeah, that's a good point. I never really took that into consideration. I suppose the chances may be less, which would take away the appeal of Darwin. But I just think the coverage over the next few weeks, I'm happy to go with him against essentially a second goalkeeper in Villa defence, right? Martinez isn't going to be there. Zem, your front 3 is Mitro, Haaland and Nketiah. I do like that as a combination. I think Mitro, though, he potentially, because he's potentially a doubt or he's out, I think you look at maybe moving him to Martial or Wilson if you can afford him. Ian, why are you going for Greenwood? Well, it's literally just because of the formation, 3-5-2. Sebastian, yeah, so Cancelo out and Foden in is basically the swap that I've done. Tanoki, you think one Arsenal might be too little? They are potentially challenging for the league. Yes, I agree, but I just don't like their fixtures too much. So for me, it's more of a wait and see. So I could easily go up to Martinelli, but I haven't got the headache of the value tied up in him. I like Odegaard because he's more nailed as the captain. I don't think he gets rotated. Martinelli could be playing as the number 9, so I am kind of tempted by that as a possibility. But I don't think I need to invest too heavily in them now because their fixtures aren't too good. I can't see me playing their defenders and banking in clean sheets or attacking returns from someone like Ben White or Gabriel. Obviously, Jesus being out, we don't know really how the front line is going to be performing. So I'm kind of happy to go with that maybe deeper midfielder in Odegaard a little bit. But he's just, those past few weeks before the World Cup, he really started to show his creativity. And I think that as a captain, he's more, I don't know, he could just be that differential pick that I wanted to go for. Thoughts on Martial as a Man United fan? The problem with Martial is he's short term. So that I've seen a lot of questions in the community about Martial or Wilson. And I would say that as long as you're in the mindset that by game week, say 20, you probably want to move not Martial on, I would say you're okay. He's been injury prone. He's a minutes risk already anyway. I'm not necessarily now. I would say he probably plays 70 plus minutes. I think he is a great finisher. The problem I have with him is that we're in the January transfer market for a striker, hence why I'm saying he's a short-term pick. And our fixtures are City and Arsenal. Do I think we can do some damage, or him personally can do some damage? Maybe, but I would prefer, I think, Wilson on the long term as a pick. So it depends on what your strategy is, really. Sugar, my team is left to one decision, Martial and Patterson versus Greenwood and Van Dijk. Interesting. I haven't seen a Liverpool defender in many drafts. I mean, personally, it depends on who you're going with in terms of the starter. But I imagine, okay, so you'd be starting Martial or Van Dijk. I would go for Martial and Patterson, I think. But again, it's a short-term decision. Tanoki, I'm thinking Nketiah and Martial, but both might be too punty. Yeah, I think so. I think you only go for one. Sportcat, gone for Kepa, James, Cancelo, Trippier, White, Mount, De Bruyne, Martinelli, Rashford, Darwin, Haaland as my starting 11. Mate, to be honest, we had this really long conversation, didn't we, yesterday, about what was the best formation. I think 3-5-2, I'm going to be landing on the same. I think that's a really strong team, bud. I really do. Zem, I'm avoiding Man U because Martinez and Varane are out, so Man U will mostly not keep a clean sheet. I had the exact same logic. I thought that with our backline, it's going to be a little bit more makeshift, but we're talking about possibly in terms of fixtures here, we've got teams that have got the lowest performing expected goals in the league. We've got Forest, Wolves and Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth's probably a little bit, trickier than Wolves and Forest. I think these are banker clean sheets, to be honest, boys. That's why I'm thinking at 4.8 million, he could provide attacking returns as well. I think I'm on board with him. But I had the same reservations, 100%, Zem. Seb, Greenwood and 5 mil defender, or Nketiah and someone like Patterson. I mean, see, obviously my personal view is now that 3-5-2 is stronger. I think Nketiah, the problem with him I have is that how many minutes does he play, and does he actually play as the number 9 fully? Because we know that Martinelli can play there. So it's just a big question mark for me over Nketiah. Ian, Zaha or Almiron for Foden? I would probably take Zaha out for Foden. I'd keep Almiron. I just can't fit a Newcastle attacker in this draft, which is a little bit tricky, but I'm not 100% on their fixtures anyway. But I would say, yeah, Zaha's really punty for the next... Well, not punty, but he's only got 2 weeks of good fixtures, whereas Foden's got, double game weeks ahead of him. He's just a risk in terms of minutes, guys. Like, I can't say you should put him in because I was really on the fence with it. But I just think the triple City attack, I think it's the way to go. Tanoki, you think Salah could be an option? I had him in my draft originally. I didn't have De Bruyne. I had Salah. When I watched that EFL Cup game, it made my headache even worse, to be honest, just because I think that both of them had a really, really good game. De Bruyne probably edged it for me, though, in terms of overall output. I just think that when you've got a player like KDB and he's got doubles, I think I'm okay with having Darwin just as the attacker. I think if Salah's going to provide or get any points, then Darwin potentially is involved too. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I don't feel like a double up on them is necessary. But anyway, I'll just show you on Plan FPL what my reasoning is for some of these picks, right? So this is how I would line up in terms of the 3-5-2. You can ignore the 1.1 in the bank because I actually have to buy De Bruyne back because I made a boo-boo and transferred early on with a couple of people. So I'd have 1 million in the bank here, and this is how the team would line up on the 3-5-2. Then you go into game week 18. I'm pretty happy with this team. I wouldn't need to make any changes. We've got a really strong team here. Of course, my bench is looking a little bit weak. I've got Greenwood, and there's no sort of coverage for any rotation. I would potentially have to play Estupinian against Arsenal if Foden gets rotated here. But maybe I just take the L on that week. Game week 19, this is where I was saying that I potentially could get Mitro in, which is why I wouldn't go for him early on. I could easily get rid of Darwin. Yes, it means no Liverpool, but again, I'm giving myself a couple of weeks to assess how the teams are going to get on, basically, within the restart. Then we go into game week 20. Cool, this is all just provisionary. It's just provisional. It's just showing you what I could possibly do. I would maybe go to someone like Kulusevski to cover Tottenham's double against Arsenal and City. That would be a Rashford to Kulu. So in game week 20, Man United play City. It's not the worst fixture, I don't think, for Rashford because I think he could get in between the lines, basically, and behind the lines and score a goal or two. But I'm always going to back the doubler, and I really like Kulu. Then you go into 21, and you can move someone like Mason Mount onto Trossard for the potential double, triples, and so on. So I feel like, I don't know, over these next few weeks, the 3-5-2 for my squad personally makes more sense than the 3-4-3. Like I have a little bit more flexibility. So that's what I would implore you to do, is just have a look at the next few weeks, which players you're playing, who you're going to captain, and so on. Really, that's the way I've been looking at it. Seb, Odegaard to Almiron, or is Odegaard better than Almiron? I think it depends if you've got... How many Arsenal assets have you got? I think for me personally, because they've got double game weeks ahead of them, I would go Arsenal over Almiron. As an attacker. I think I'd go Odegaard over him. Sportcat, if you had to pick between Rashford, Martinelli, and Martial, who would you pick? Oh, it's a tricky one. I really want to back Martial. I really do. Over these next 3 fixtures, I just think that they're much better than what Arsenal's attack is. Rashford and Martial as a double up, though. I had them in my draft. That's the thing. I had them. So to some degree, I definitely back us to do very, very well over these next few fixtures. Martinelli's more of it's a deeper pick than that, because it's not just... It depends on how much value you've got tied up in him and whether you're happy to lose the 0.3 or 0.4 million if you sell him. So I think it's a more extended question. But on paper, I would say short-term, Martial and Rashford for me. I never make these things easier, do I? I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe I overthink too much, but that's just the way that I play the game. I look for the people that are going to, or the players that are going to score me the most points, or I think they're going to score me the most points in any given week. You only had space for 2, so you chose Martinelli and Rashford. I don't hate it, mate. I had Martinelli, Rashford, and Martial in my my latest draft, I think. Yeah, there's definitely still some question marks over what to do, but like I say, I think I'm pretty happy with what's on the screen for me. How you doing, George? All good, my good mate. How are you doing? My break was very, very good. Really enjoyed the World Cup, to be honest. I obviously missed the Premier League, but yeah, I really enjoyed the World Cup and obviously spent some time with my family. Malta, sorry if I destroyed your name there, bud. Is it worth downgrading Cancelo to Walker to get in KDB instead of Fernandes? See, I really like Bruno over the next few fixtures as well, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think if you can fit KDB in any way, it's going to be the one. I think you try to do that. Cancelo to Walker, though, I'm not 100% convinced on. I think Walker's probably even more of a rotation risk than Cancelo could be over the next few weeks. I've seen Akanji being flown around a little bit. Maybe he's the one who's potentially more nailed, although he's got Stones to challenge him. Maybe Laporte is the kind of only defender that I would consider over Cancelo. It's just really hard to tell with City's defence. So I think maybe have a look at the draft without any City defence in it at all. I know that sounds a little bit bonkers because you know it's Leeds, it's a fixture that does look amazing on paper, but it is away. Ellen Road could be a bit of a dangerous place. Everton, you could see a clean sheet. Chelsea and United, though, 19 and 20, both away games. I'm not sure they're potentially clean sheets there. Tottenham at home in 20. I know that's a double game week, but do we really need to have City defenders? That's why I've gone with triple City attack, because I feel like their output's going to be much better from an attacking point of view. So maybe have a look at different options. How are we doing, SJ? Welcome to the stream, bud. Which one do you think is a better option, Akanji, Stones or Laporte? Yeah, I just mentioned, didn't I? I just literally spoke through that. I think Laporte would be my pick of those 3. Maybe that's a bit controversial because it's still a bit of an unknown, really, on how many minutes those guys get. But I think Laporte would be the one for me. With Diaz being injured, I think Pep's going to trust Laporte more. We know he rates Stones, and we know that Akanji, yes, he's got a lot of minutes between, I think, was it game week 8 and game week 16? But I'm not sure that carries on because the injuries have been at different points in time have meant that Pep's had to play him. It's really tricky. That's why I've gone without City defence, to be honest. I think unless you're going Ederson, from a City defender point of view, it doesn't add up to me. Like, you either go Cancelo, you go Ederson, or you go none. And even starting this game week with 2 City, if you don't want to go for Phil Foden yet, maybe you want to wait and see. I think KDB and Haaland is a fine double up, and you just ignore the City defence. You know, maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm just trying. At the end of the day, look, I'm top 15%. I'm 1.5 million. I'm about 30 points away from the 500k-ish, something like that. I want to make up ground somewhere, and the only way I can see it is by going a little bit different. I'm tired of seeing the same template teams over and over, and I just felt like I needed to just change things up a little bit. I mean, I was definitely a victim of the template. Tanoki, your team, right? So Kepa, Ward. Love those goalkeepers, definitely. James, Patterson, Estepinian, Trippier and Shaw. So you're probably going to be doing the same as me, right? James, Trippier and Shaw are probably going to be your 3 starters for the most point. Patterson I'm not sure with, because, I mean, with Bueno, it depends on how many... It depends on how many sort of 0.01 millions you need in your squad. But I just think that Bueno as a playing defender makes more sense than Patterson. So I know Wolves are bottom of the league, but you're not necessarily going to want to play him anyway. And the same for Patterson. So I feel like Bueno maybe makes sense over him, but it's up to you. With Foden, Martinelli, De Bruyne, Rashford, Andreas, I do like that midfield. Really, really strong. Wilson, Haaland, Darwin. So I think, so you're on the same boat as me, that in game week 19, you would probably put Andreas in instead of Wilson, right? You would bench Wilson against Arsenal, and then you'd play Andreas. And this is the problem, is that like with the team you see kind of on screen, if I wanted to have triple City attack, I would have to, and if still continue with playing Andreas, I would have to go, so Greenwood couldn't be Wilson. I think that's how my draft worked, and it really annoyed me. I wanted to have Wilson so that I could bench him for Andreas, but I don't have anybody that I could bench for Andreas if I kept Foden, De Bruyne, Mount and Rashford. But anyway, your team looks really solid, mate. That looks really solid. Ian, forward under 6.5 million. Under 6.5. I don't think there is anybody really, is there? Like, you need to be spending at least 6.7, 6.5 for a forward. So Nketiah could be worth a punt, but like I said, I still feel like he's risky. Solanke's probably your best bet. I've seen Shay Adams in some people's drafts. I mean, their fixtures look good, but Shay Adams, like, he can't finish to save his life. Welbeck's out, so I wouldn't consider him. Alvarez just takes up a City attacker without guaranteed minutes. I would say Solanke's probably your best, to be honest. But I'm really not convinced on that. Just maybe, I don't know how you can find the alternative budget, but yeah, I'm not sure. George might put Carvalho in. Liverpool have no Firmino, no Jota, which means they do only have 3 fit strikers. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I just think that, again, there's so many midfielder options, though. I mean, how much is Carvalho? Like, is he 5.4 million? I don't know, man. I just feel like Almiron's the same, right? Almiron's 5.8 now. Okay. I don't know if you're going to put that type of price point, and I feel like you maybe try to stretch to Almiron. I mean, the fixture's that much better. 10:30. What are we doing, boys? Are we locking stuff in? I definitely don't want to run the risk of the website failing me. That would be absolutely painful. Unlimited transfers and I don't get to do one. That would be abysmal, wouldn't it? Seb, my team. Kepa, Ward, plus. White, James, Shaw, Trippier, Bueno. I like it. I would consider, though, Ben White or Luke Shaw. Just have a look at Brighton. Don't sit on them or sleep on them, basically. I think that because of the doubles or the potential triples, they could be an option. But still, I like that back line. Mount, De Bruyne, Foden, Rashford, Almiron. That is a really, really strong midfield, mate. I mean, look at that. Mount, I guess, is a captain option in game week 19 with the double. And like I said, you can always, with Darwin, if you're prepared to do it like I am, you can always sell him for Mitro if you want a Fulham player as a captain. I just think Andreas is maybe blinding a few people, so I really like that, Seb. Top draft, mate. What do you think, Almiron and Darwin, or Martinelli and Mitro Wilson? Almiron and Darwin, or Martinelli and Mitro or Wilson? Well, Mitro for me is out of the questions then. I just think just wait until game week 19. Have a look to see if on his fitness. Look at what happens over the next few weeks. If he plays, if he gets a yellow card. I just think just avoid him. Don't even think about him as an option right now. So it would then limit Almiron and Darwin, or Martinelli and Wilson. I think I like Martinelli and Wilson. Wilson's on penalties. Martinelli potentially plays as the number 9. I think Arsenal attack is probably better than Liverpool's. Maybe not over the next few fixtures, though. Martinelli, Wilson, mate. That's what I'm going to go with. George, here's my thinking. Villa have no Martinez and their backup keeper's injured too, so Liverpool could have a field day against Villa. Carvalho, 1 week punt as a differential. Well, if he's just a 1 week punt and you're happy to kind of remove him or even just give him a couple of weeks, then fair enough, mate. I can see the reasoning for that. And the thing is that logic applies for the reasoning why a lot of people have gone with Darwin in their teams, right? I know he can't finish for shit at the moment, but to be honest with you, his XG is absolutely out of this world, and a kind of keeperless Villa, I'm not going to be disrespectful to them, but Martinez has definitely been the best option for them between the sticks for a while. So I feel like you're right. It's up to you whether you want to take that midfielder slot. I just think personally there's other options, that's all. Robert, is it worth to go Patterson over Bueno because of possible double game week? I mean, I can kind of see the point of that. I mean, let's face it, double game week's always going to be... But then isn't Everton's going to be against Arsenal and someone else anyway? And what's the likelihood you play him in that particular week? Wolves are going to double at some point as well. Just bear that in mind, that there are a lot of fixtures, although that is against Liverpool, I suppose. So you can ignore that. I just personally, I'm on the view of he's going to be my third bench option pretty much all the time. Even Greenwood gets minutes, so he probably isn't my third bench option. So I personally want to save the 0.1 just in case I need it later on. Sebastian, you made 100 transfers during the break. Damn, son, damn. Well, I hope you didn't lose value in any players and then rebuy them, because that's kind of that's the danger of doing so many transfers, bud. But I can understand why. It's tempting to do over the breaks. Tanoki, now I have confirmed everything except Cancelo, Zaha, Kane, or Estepinian, De Bruyne and Darwin. Oh, mate, both of those options are so good. Cancelo, Zaha and Kane, just leftovers with values tied in. I think Zaha definitely goes. Yeah, I think even someone like Trossard I could get behind over Zaha, to be honest, and potentially, take that early punt on him. He's a little bit fixture-proof. He probably plays in the number 9 role as well for Brighton. I definitely don't see him in enough drafts, to be honest. He's been in a couple of mine, but I just can't fit him in for the next few weeks. I'm just going to wait and see. But yeah, I think Zaha potentially goes. Just like I said with Kane, just be careful. That's all I'm going to say with him. Just be careful. You've got to go into this game week, I think, expecting him to blank on an early kickoff and potentially yellow card. That's all I'm going to say with him. So for me personally, Estepinian, De Bruyne and Darwin. But I have those 3 in my team, so there's my bias. George, you're just going to make sure you have enough money to rotate to Almiron after. If he can't, then he becomes Andreas. Okay, fair enough. I think that's logical. Both options there in terms of upgrades or downgrade as such. Even though Andreas is a really good pick, I think it's possible. Cancelo is 7.4 and I bought him at 7. Same as me, mate. I'm going to be losing 0.2 on him. I mean, I that's all I'll say with the Cancelo and Kane thing, is that there is a risk. It just depends, as in going with them and without them, I suppose. Yeah, like it's such a close call between those two options that you've got there. I really don't think there's going to be much in it. But I just prefer De Bruyne over Kane. Maybe that's me, but as a premium slot, that just makes sense to me. And then if you look at Darwin versus Cancelo, I prefer Darwin as well. Like, to me, it's just a no-brainer. Cancelo's attacking output just hasn't been there as much yet. Seb, you didn't lose any value. Perfect, mate. Good way to play. Tanoki, keep Cancelo. Yeah, sorry, we just had that. Malte, is there a better player than Walker around the same price? Well, isn't he 4.8? So for me, it's Ben White, Luke Shaw. Do you take a punt on Castagna even? I don't know. I don't think with the first few fixtures you play him, but it depends on if you want someone to play it as your kind of third defender. If he's going to be playing, I would go with Shaw or White. Early kickoff, Gandhi hiding in the corner, hyperventilating and drooling. Precisely my point, mate. That's why I'm just a little bit on the fence with Kane still. Attacker under 7.5 million, preferably more around 7 million. I would go with Trossard's a really good option. Obviously, Mount, if you haven't got him, George, then I would suggest having a look at him just for his double game week. I don't really think there's anyone else. Zaha, we've already mentioned, definitely a couple of weeks, yes. And then after that, I would say the fixtures turn too dangerously, or you need to be kind of booking in a transfer. Trossard, I think the fixtures early on are not so great, but he still potentially could give us some output. Anyone else under 7.5? Martinelli, I suppose, is going to be a good shout. I've got Odegaard in there. I don't know how far you go down from 7, to be honest. Obviously, Rashford's great. There's options. Amit, Kepa, Ward, Trippier, Saliba, Cancelo, Bueno, Patterson. Decent backline. I would say my view is going to be Saliba, 4 yellow cards. Just be careful. Other than that, okay. Maybe you can downgrade him to Ben White if you want an Arsenal defender. Almiron, Martinelli, Rashford, Andreas, and then Martial, Kane and Haaland. You need James, Martial to Greenwood and Bueno to James. I like that. Martial to Greenwood and Bueno to James makes sense. I feel like you've covered United attack with Rashford anyway. I personally prefer that. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. Absolutely, mate. Happy New Year to you too. Hope you had a good Christmas. Tanoki, you got Kane at 11.4 and now he's 11.6. Still, though, I still think you get rid of him. Yeah, I just think that's not enough value to warrant. Like Trippier, I bought him at 5 million. That to me, and that's why I can understand why Martinelli's also a very tricky talking point for some people. When you get to the point of like 1 million, you're talking about, well, 500,000 in terms of sell value. That's massive. But when you're talking about 0.1 or 0.2, I don't think it matters. Thoughts on Martial? I really like him as a pick. He's just short term. He's just absolutely short term. Next 3 fixtures only, and then we're going to be in the market probably for Cody Gakpo for a January transfer. Do I think he comes in straight away? Possibly not. But I still think then the fixtures turn for United for a couple of weeks. So if you've got a short-term kind of plan to be able to get rid of him for someone, I think Martial's great. If not, then I would prefer someone maybe like Wilson, if you can stretch to him, as he's a longer-term asset. Tanoki, we already said that. Why Odegaard over Martinelli? I think Odegaard, to be honest, he's just a bit of a kind of... I don't think he's a pick that people are sleeping on, but I just like him as a little bit of a differential. A lot of people have got Arsenal attackers in Saka and Martinelli, mainly Martinelli because of the value. I haven't got that problem because I never bought Martinelli at the beginning. I've been without Martinelli this whole season. So I think what's the point in jumping on him now? I feel like I've missed the boat with him a little bit, to be honest, which is why I'm taking a bit more of a risk and a punt on Odegaard. I can't quite reach Saka. That's my reasoning. No worries, George. Hopefully that helps, mate. Amit, which is the best City defender or best second City defender? So I imagine you're putting Cancelo as the best. I'm going to say Ederson, mate. I've said Cancelo and Ederson are probably the best 2 options from a City defender point of view. If you want to take a little bit of a risk for an outfield defender, I would maybe swing towards Laporte. But that is real punt territory, to be honest. Seb, you think Almiron is better than Odegaard because Newcastle have better fixtures and Arsenal don't have that striker like Jesus? They don't, which is... It's kind of almost why I think Odegaard might end up doing the dirty work. So maybe you're right. Maybe he has to kind of, pick up the ball in those deeper areas and doesn't provide as much attacking output because Jesus, he basically, fell into that kind of, that deeper playmaker role. Maybe you're right. Maybe I end up going for Almiron. The difficulty is that it's about who I play. So I think the reason why I went with Arsenal is because it was more about, I think around game week 19 or 20, Should we try it on? Let's try it on here. So if we went for Almiron instead, I mean, I'll have a lot of extra money though. 1.7. Not sure. So I'd have him against Leicester, Leeds, potentially Arsenal. I do see what you mean though, because then Fulham, Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth, there's some really, really good fixtures there. But I wouldn't have an Arsenal attacker for a long time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Love the stream. Thanks, mate. Thanks. Welcome. If you're new, I'll first plug of the day. If you're new around here, then hit that button, boys. Hit that button. And ladies, I won't be sexist here. It's an all-inclusive stream. Settled on SU KDB Darwin 0.9 in the bank. Welcome to the club, sir. I think it's the right move, mate. I do. I think it's the right move. But we'll be back next stream and we can talk about it. That's what's beautiful about this game. Like, I know 100% I've made lots of mistakes this season. But I still think I can pull it back. I don't think 100k is maybe possible. It depends on the engagement of how many people are paying attention. Because I feel like there's a lot of ownership still in Jesus and players like that are now injured. And post World Cup, there will always be a drop off of players. So I feel like that, in terms of total rank, can also help a little bit. As for the engaged managers within the top 1.5 million, I'm not sure on how I can get into the 100k now. It's going to be a difficult path. But that's why with this unlimited, this is an unheard of situation in this season or in FPL in general. We've got an extra wild card basically. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards, look, I can take a few more risks than I potentially would have done in previous seasons, because it's a free transfer button. I think we're going to go ahead and make the transfers. I'm happy with the team. I'm probably going to be playing Estepinian first bench. I'd probably even put Bueno ahead of Greenwood. Captaincy on Haaland. I'll probably go... Do I go Vice on anyone else? I probably go Vice on De Bruyne, right? In terms of the two. I know it's two City players, but that's probably the best option. Martinelli or Mount? Look, I'm definitely in Club Mount. The reason, the point of that is just because of Game Week 19. I know some people might be saying, well, he's not done enough. He's playing against Bournemouth and Forest in the first two. So I think Chelsea's fixtures are definitely better than Arsenal's. It just goes back to that question about value, bud. Like, if you've bought Martinelli at 6.2, 6.3, I don't know. I feel like maybe you do have to keep him on that basis because he potentially could be playing number 9. But I'm nae sure. I'm nae sure. Zem, I'm just going to go for Mitro. If he doesn't play, I'm putting Patterson first, Benton Mountanelli. Yeah. Combine the two of them. The weirdest love child you'll ever see in football. I'm just going to go for Mitro. If he doesn't play, I'm putting Patterson on the first bench, so he will come on. I mean, Everton are playing Wolves, so I can see the reasoning. But I just don't see the point in going for Mitro. I really don't. I think that, it's Palace away. It's not even an easy fixture. If we were talking about Forest at home, then I would say, yeah, sure, I would kind of be backing it, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it, mate. George, here's your team. Kepa, Ward. Yeah, I feel like that is just going to be the two keepers that everybody goes for now, right? James, Shaw, Estepinian, Bueno, Trippier. James, Shaw, Estepinian, Bueno, Trippier. Exactly the same backline as me, so I can't really argue with that. Martinelli, Carvalho, Foden, Rashford, Nunez, Haaland, Greenwood. Got Nelly since 6 mil, so the value is insane. Yeah, so I am absolutely can get on board with keeping him. And that midfield, man. De Bruyne, Martinelli, Carvalho. I mean, you've already mentioned Carvalho down to Andreas maybe for 19 for his double and potentially for Almiron as well. I'd like him as a punt. I do. I like him as a punt. It's a pretty solid draft, mate. Josh Bosch. What a name. Best forward under 7 million. Martial, Nketiah or Mitro, but only for the double. Well, here's the thing. Mitro, for me personally, is that you can bring him in for the double. He's a wait and see for a couple of weeks. So I think Mitro goes out of the question because he might not even play this week. So I'm going to go with Martial out of the three of them. Martial will also be short term though. First 3 fixtures, and then I would say potentially look at moving him to someone like Wilson or someone like that longer term. Tanoki, you move from Patterson to Bueno, third bench slot anyway, 1 mil in the bank. Spot on, mate. I understand the reasoning for Patterson in terms of the double game week, right? Like, I get it, I do understand it, but we're talking about a Lampard defence. Like, it's just, Everton have been absolutely shite. So, it doesn't really matter. Like, I think that 0.1 could be useful, mate. So, I think that's good. For this week, though, Mitro has been said to be a doubt. Yeah, I just don't understand the pick. I really don't. In early drafts, I had him, absolutely, because I was like, I'm possibly going to captain him in 19, but I still could do that. I just transfer. Like, we don't need to think all the way ahead. Like, we can plan for it, absolutely, but, I mean, you know, we're talking about 3 weeks. There's 2 transfers in between then and 19. So, George, when I kind of realised I have 2 more in the bank, so if Carvalho turns into Trossard now or even Mount, that's a very, very good upgrade, in my opinion there, mate. So you can target the double for Mount. I feel like he's a great captaincy option. You know, let's see how he performs in a couple of weeks, over these next few weeks. I understand there's a lot of people that are like, no, he just cannot be justified as an option, but I just think you take the risk on him. I just think, look, he hasn't performed, no, but he's got great fixtures, a double in 19, possible captaincy shout, and then if he's rubbish, you just bin him. It doesn't matter so much. There's loads of options around that midfield point, so you just use transfer. I just don't see why you wouldn't trust him. That's my reasoning. Speaking of awesome names, is FPL Boo Boo lurking? Yeah, man. FPL Boo Boo. Just honestly, some of the names you see on YouTube, they're just genius, man. Josh Bosch, what a name. That's quality. Maybe it just works better in my my Cockney accent, but camera's decided to be a bit blurry. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Probably getting warm. We'll turn it off for a minute. You always get these gut feelings and ignore them. Did it with Rodrigo at the start of the season. Ignored him and he went crazy. Yeah. Well, what's your gut feeling? What is your gut feeling? Trossard or Mount? What's your gut feeling? I actually had both of them in a draft at one point. See, that's the thing. Odegaard could be Trossard, and I'd have 0.3 left. I wouldn't have an Arsenal attacker, but I'd have essentially a number 9 in Trossard. Zaha or Rash? Yeah, Rashford. Tanoki's hit the nail on the head. Got to be Rashford, mate. Even longer term, even if you can't make a move or sell him for anyone else later down the line, I think even against City and Arsenal, he could still prove pivotal in United's attack. And at 6.7, it's just a great amount of value. Got to pick your nose. No, the camera went blurry. Yeah, I took the opportunity, mate. Search for some gold. I mean, look, I can't quite get to. This is the problem I have. If I went to Almiron, I mean, I'm not doing anything with Greenwood, right? I can't really. 5.8. Solanke. Look at this. The perfect budget use. I just don't like that. What's the Kepa hype? What's happened to Mendy? Mendy's refused a contract. And just Kepa in general, his save points are off the chart, mate. If we have a look at his save points here, so it's this column, saves, if I can get my mouse over it right. You can't see it all because I don't know how to like scroll down basically without cutting off so much. But he made 7 saves, 5 saves, 5 saves, 1 save, 0-0. Okay, sure, but he didn't play any minutes against Arsenal and Newcastle because he was injured. But before that, he was in outstanding form. They've only kept 1 clean sheet, but they're going to be doubling in 19. I just think at 4.5 million, he just provides so much value. Ben White or Lewis Dunk? For me personally, I know Ben White has got confirmed doubles with Arsenal, but I feel like Brighton, I don't know, man. They've got some okay fixtures. It depends on you're going to be playing them, because Brighton gets really, really positive in my opinion from 21 onwards, right? Like this slot of time is looking really good for Brighton defence in my opinion, although they're not as defensive under De Zerbi, so I would maybe lean towards White if you're going to be playing them. Henrik, Martial, Mitro and Andreas, or Mount and Greenwood. Oh my God. It's such a tricky one. Martial, take Mitro out of the equation. Martial and Andreas, or Mount and Greenwood. Well, for me, it's Mount and Greenwood. But I can see the appeal in Martial and Andreas because I had them. I had that combination. But I had Mount in rather than... So for me, it was Andreas over Foden. I just think Mount could do something in this double, boys. I really do. Dunk or Bueno. So there's no chance of a Mendy start. Well, there is, of course, because he's still a reasonable goalkeeper. But we've seen Potter as preferred Kepa from the beginning. He's been seen in training. I know he's flagged. But worst case scenario, I just play Ward. Like I just feel like it's worth the punt, to be honest, or worth the risk, if you like, because of his double in 19. Dunk or Bueno. It depends on who you're playing. If it's just a bench option, then just go for Bueno. Who's a bench? Gabriel or Almiron? Gabriel or Almiron? I don't think you bench Almiron. West Ham, then thing is though, they're without Skamaka and Antonio. I would say bench Gabriel. Dunk is playing on first defender bench with a free defender formation. Bueno otherwise, yeah, definitely, I agree. Potter lottery, yeah. I don't think, though, that Mendy's going to play. I just think if he's refused a contract extension, we've seen Kepa in training. We know that he was Potter's first choice. The only reason he didn't play in the last 3 games, or only played 45 minutes in that game week's 14 fixture, was because he injured his foot. So I think he's an absolute fine pick. Even though he's flagged, I still think he's fine. Estepinian or Patterson? I obviously I've got Estepinian in my team, but I would say Patterson is more of a kind of, it's Patterson or Bueno. Estepinian's just a kind of rotation option for me. So it depends on what you're using the money on, or where you're going to be positioning Estepinian. For me, he's just like I say, he's a rotation option. Where are we at? How long to the deadline, boys? 10 minutes. 10 minutes till the Premier League deadline or FPL deadline has hit us. It's crazy. I can't believe it. Time has absolutely flown by. Yeah, indeed. I agree. Let's just make your changes now, boys. Zakaria. This is your squad. Kepa, Trippier, Cancelo, White, KDB, Martinelli, Almiron, Rashford, Darwin, Haaland. Captain with Kane. I mean, listen, as far as freemium drafts go, that's pretty strong, mate. That is pretty strong. I really like it. I'm definitely going to have FOMO on Cancelo, man. Like this is the first time I haven't owned him at least 1 point. I know I had Walker at the beginning of the season, but he's definitely a player that can explode at some point. But let's see. Patrick, mate, welcome to the stream, bud. Missed everything. Well, you can always watch it retrospectively if you want, pal, but I'm not sure how much help that'll be for you. But Happy New Year to yourself as well, bud. All the best for next year. Fingers crossed for more green arrows this year, yeah? Well, next year. Sebastian, no Spurs or Brentford players. Nah, I'm not really... The early kickoff, I'm not interested in covering every kickoff. I'll probably go for Kulusevski later down the line, more than likely, when and if Spurs double. Haaland captain, yeah, definitely Haaland captain. Who's a better option, Kane and Shaw or Cancelo and Darwin? Oh my God, Cancelo and Darwin for me. Cancelo and Darwin, man. Like Kane, I definitely can see the appeal. I mean, if you have a look at the comment section of one of my previous videos, or if not my last video, there's so much talk about it. He's on 4 yellows. You know, I don't know the World Cup situation is going to have, what effect the World Cup situation is going to have on him psychologically. So he's just a wait and see for me. It's so much money to spend on somebody that I'm not certain on that I think Cancelo and Darwin makes more sense. So Patrick, I have no Chelsea, Darwin, Kane and Haaland in the team. Foden, Martinelli, Cancelo, Robertson, Trippier, Almiron, Ward and Kulusevski. I don't hate the draft, to be honest. I mean, no Chelsea. It's a little bit of a risk. Reece James is definitely a risk in himself, though. Yeah, you've deleted the comment now by the looks of it, so I can't give you any more. But it looked like a pretty solid team. I think Haaland will score at least 2 goals. He is back. Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. Those juicy double points coming in. But he looks really sharp, doesn't he? I mean, in the EFL Cup, I think he looks really sharp. And this is why I chose De Bruyne over Salah in the end. Because I just think that he is going to be feeding him so well. So that's how we're lining up, guys. I feel like this is it. I feel like I've planned. I'm just going to have a look at planfpl.com now and just go through it. I won't do it on screen. I'll just have a look quickly. Just to see if there's anything that I could do differently, but I'm pretty certain that this is me. I mean, not going with a Newcastle attacker is definitely something that I'm going to be... I may live to regret, but hey-ho. You captain in Rashford? No, definitely not. Definitely not. I could do. Take an absolute punt. Patrick, right, your team's back. Ward, Cancelo, Robertson, Trippier, Foden, Kulusevski, Almiron, Darwin, Haaland, Kane, Martinelli. I mean, it's a pretty good squad, so I imagine you've gone with Ward and Iverson then to free up as much money as possible. You're not interested in the Kepa-Ward rotation. Cancelo, Robertson, Trippier. That is so much money in the defence, my man. Robertson, like, I don't know with Liverpool. I really don't know with Liverpool defence. Cancelo's fine. Trippier, absolutely. Foden, absolutely, 100%. Maybe a bit of a minute's risk. I would definitely think... So you're missing... Now I'm looking at it, you're missing that premium midfielder, aren't you, really? Go for Almiron, trust me. Mate, do I take Odegaard out and go for Almiron? We've got 5 minutes. It's all right. It's enough time. We've had 6 weeks, so what's 5 minutes? Thing is, when I look at the fixture ticker, though, right? Like, Arsenal are literally second. Newcastle are nowhere near. They're nowhere near. But I think the game week 23 is definitely put in... So let's just take game week 23 out. Yeah. See, Newcastle are right up there now. Oh, man. So this is literally the headache now. It's only this. So if we went for... We could always move from Almiron to an Arsenal attacker anyway. From 21 onwards. Or 22 onwards, should I say, when they potentially double. FPL site will crash again. I think they improved the infrastructure. But if we have a look, like, so in 22... I don't know, man. I don't know. So if you have a look, where are we going from? 17. Arsenal are second. Take 23 out of the equation, though. they drop all the way down here. And Newcastle are a way up. My man Boo Boo, welcome back to the stream, bud. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Perrault, Andreas and Williams bench. Decent enough, Patrick. I just think that, yeah, Kane's the dodgy pick for me. I would potentially go with a premium midfielder instead. If Aaron plays well and gets 10 points, and it's going to be drop your rank more than if Odegaard gets 10 points. True. True. That's a good point, Seb. That is a good point. Kepa, James, White, Trippier, KDB, Salah, Martinelli, Rashford, Wilson, Martial, Haaland. Damn, son. I mean, that's a pretty good draft. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Is Tony banned? I don't think he's banned this week, but he's obviously under a bit of scrutiny at the moment, isn't he? Mount or Callum Wilson? Mount for me. Right, 2 minutes, guys. I just need to think about this last move. SJ, I'll have a look at your team in a minute, bud. But then 1.6 million in the bank. Like, what am I going to do with that 1.6 million? I guess, I mean, I can get to like a Solanke if I wanted to have an option later down the line here. And then if I'm downgrading someone, I can put him up to potentially like a Wilson and shift things around a bit. The thing is, I've had Odegaard for so long now. I'm not going to make any last minute moves. I'm not going to do it. Boom. Boom. The game chose for me, guys. The game chose for me. Not sure what's gone on with my my stream now. If we take, where's the window capture? There we go. Well, that was a bit of a strange ending, but we're locked in. You can't see the team on screen now unless I go on to, yeah, we're here. This is it. This is the team. FPL link name change to FPL. Boom. Maybe. Who sees? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe in the future. Merry Christmas though, Keith. Welcome to the stream, bud. Hope you had a good time with your family over the holidays, mate. But that's it. We're locked in, guys. We're locked in. So we've got 1 million in the bank. You can ignore the website there because that's just taking into consideration some value that went a little bit amiss in my transfers. So we've got 1.0 million in the bank. That's the team, guys. Darwin potentially injured. Well, if he is, I've got Estepinian coming in. You know, I've maybe taken a bit of a punt with or risk with him because I did see there was a photograph without Darwin included in it. What's Man United transfers planned? Do you mean for the January transfer window? But yeah, Keith, I don't know, man. I just feel like with the Villa fixture, the only thing I've seen to Noki is that he's not in a picture for Liverpool. But I just feel like people are just reading too much into that. Like they've got so much injury news. Unless there has been fresh ones, I haven't really been paying attention enough. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the only source that I kind of looked at to Nokia. I don't know if anything's been updated since then. Maybe Keith's got some more news for us, but as far as I know, he should be good. It's been on Twitter this morning. Fair enough. Well, we're there. We've gone with him. If he doesn't play, I've got Estepinian coming off the bench for him. And then, like I said, the plans were always to maybe move him on to Mitrovic anyway in a couple of weeks. So I'd like to know where the Twitter source is, though. Let me see if I can find some more info on it. But yeah, see, a lot of people have still got Darwin locked in. Syed, hello Dan, hope you had a great break. I certainly did, sir. Thank you very much. Hope you did too. But yeah, I enjoyed the World Cup very much so. You don't see it anyway. Yeah, I've just had a quick scan, but I can't see anything that's sort of scary enough for me to think that he's not going to start. But, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Darwin Nunez injury, there's been like not much talk about it recently. You just woke up lucky and done my team last night. Well, you really skinny your nose there, bud. Captain Darwin, differential club. Well, good luck, mate. Good luck. I think it might be a bit risky there, just because Liverpool haven't got enough, in my opinion, in terms of attacking output or options now, right? They've got so many injuries, but who knows, mate? He could absolutely go crazy against Villa. So good luck with the pick, mate. Messi, Alvarez and Haaland would be a dream trio Man City attack. He could have gone there. He could have gone there, couldn't he? James out, Cucurella in based on that news. I've just seen something here about as someone mentioned Reece James is potentially not in now as well. What's going on? Yeah, no Martinez. Yeah, indeed. I completely see the reasoning. Did not like the World Cup. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of the best World Cups in terms of the football that I've seen in a long time, mate. It's a controversial topic because of obviously what happened over there. But in terms of the football, everything else aside, I felt like the World Cup final, from the referee's perspective, mate, that was the best refereeing I've seen in a football match in a long, long time. Absolutely awesome. But I know what you mean. There was some really dodgy games. I didn't like the France-England game at all. I feel like, you know, that goal where Saka got fouled, that was... Nah, I'm sorry, I can't get on board with that. But there was a lot of good football from a neutral perspective. Sayem Kumar, which defensive pair is better, Botman White or Gabriel Patterson? I probably would have gone Botman and White, so hopefully you did the same, but obviously deadline's passed now. Sanoki, imagine everyone transfers in Messi, then Pep plays. That sounds about right. Syed, by the way, congratulations down on your arrival, little one. Thank you very much. He's doing very, very well. He's doing very, very well. He had some breathing issues, which is why there was a kind of tube in his nose in the picture that I shared. So we were in hospital for about a week. We got him home, though. I had a long paternity leave. Fortunately, my company offered 4 weeks rather than the standard 2, which is very, very good. So I had a 4-week break with him. And obviously, yeah, my little daughter and my wife as well. So we had a very good break. And he seems to have improved. So thank you very much, mate. Family complete. We definitely aren't going to have any more. Busy enough as it is, mate. Busy enough as it is. But yeah, that's it. I think that's it, guys. I mean, I'd never really know how to wrap up streams. I'm going to just put a plug here for anyone new. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be doing live streams pretty much every deadline, bar any situation with my family or last minute situations. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the restart, guys. Hopefully you are too. Thank you for everybody that joined. I feel like I've gone very differential in this draft, but you know, stranger things have happened. So let's see how far we can push up the ranks. I didn't even do a video on this draft, right? I've literally just been tinkering around, and this is where I've ended. So let's see how things play out. God, I do feel really rusty with these live streams. I'm not going to lie. It's been a long time. But I'm going to go and spend some time over at my mum and dad's for Boxing Day. So I'm going to get the kids ready and everything else. And yeah, I'm going to call it there, guys. So thank you very much. End with some kind of catchphrase. It's just not really me, though. Boom. Glad you caught the last few minutes. Cheers, Dan. Yeah, well, mate, any viewership is welcomed, whether it's 1 minute or 2 hours, mate. I'm just glad to know that people enjoy watching me. It's yeah, it's good. It is a differential season. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Yeah, I mean, I've just had a look at. I haven't watched any other YouTuber as well. I'm just looking at Twitter, and I can see Andy's landed on a completely random draft, to be honest. I mean, he's got Salah, Rashford, Martinelli, Saka, Mount, Haaland and Wilson up front. So he's actually taken Darwin away. So is that where the news has come from? Is he just has he taken, or he's just decided to go with Salah? Crazy. Anyway, guys, yes, thank you very much for joining. We're going to wrap it up there. Good luck for this game week. Really hope for them green arrows for all of you. I hope you had a fantastic break. If I don't see you between now and the new year, I don't know if I'll do any videos. We'll see. It's literally just time dependent, to be honest. I'll probably do some kind of game week breakdown or a team selection for next week as well. So yeah, look out for that. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, then I'd really appreciate the subscription. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of the holidays, and I will see you in the next stream and the next video soon. Thank you very much.